Good morning. I like to start my day to meditate, to be calm, to have a chance to reflect upon what's going on in my life, what's going on in our world. This is meditation. It doesn't have to be full of mantras or prayers or anything unusual. It can just be yourself sitting quietly and being aware. I like to suggest and also do for myself inquiry into my own physicality, my breathing, the pulse of my heart beating, the actual majesty of our shimmering life force. I like to investigate these because they help bring a sense of peace and focus, concentration, clearing our minds from other debris. It is an opportunity to catch up and to prepare for one's day, for one's outward life. When we start our day in this way, we are better prepared for a greater sense of perspective that we might accumulate in our practice. The more frequently we do our practice, meaning every day, the more success we will have in broadening our own perspective. It's as simple as that. You want to shine the light on your own being and remember whom we are. The 5 W's and 1 H, the questions of Thomas Wilson, can also help. Not necessarily that you need to amplify each one of them, but a few. The length of one's meditation also is the subject of great debate. And 1% of our day is 14.4 minutes, 14 minutes. Personally, I like to use this as a benchmark for my meditation and set a timer for this as a means of marking off a certain amount of time for my practice. At the same time, sometimes I don't do it. Sometimes I'll just spend a few moments or a few minutes, usually more than one time in a day, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 20 or 30. I don't count them, but when I feel a need to find a sense of my being, of my senses, of being alive, of being aware whom and why and where and when and what and how I am or we are, then I do it. Because it is an opportunity to step outside of one's narrow focus on a subject matter, whatever it might be, and to gain a wider perspective. And it can soften those things that are difficult or being an obstacle for you. And it can also broaden those things that are a positive, helping widen your feeling of gratitude for your good fortune, whatever it might be. In short, I'm suggesting that there are many ways that are open to us to further our own sense of self-awareness. And I'm not asking you to be like me. I prefer that you be like you, because that's what you are going to be anyway. If you look around the world at all the people who profess wisdom, you will find that they are just like us. They have good days, they have bad. Sometimes they do smart things, and sometimes they do things that are sad, that we disapprove of. So this is a sense of openness. This is a sense of allowing and accepting the differences between each of us and our own uniqueness. There are many who would say that this is also not right to do, that they know best. They know better than you or I. And you need to address this in oneself with a sense of understanding and compassion, that perhaps they are afraid, perhaps they are set in their ways, and deliberately trying to focus people's attention on a narrow range rather than a broad perspective and view. And realizing this, we move past it. If that's the way they want to be, that's fine. But does everyone need to be the same way? I don't think so. Look at the diversity in our world. All the different kinds of animals, different kinds of bacteria and viruses, different kinds of plants. Even within the context of our species, Homo sapiens, each of us is unique. Different hair color, different skin color, different eye color. Different. So why should we all try to be the same? The answer is, I think the answer is myself, that the answer is no. Each of us is different. And that should be celebrated, not ostracized. Whatever your orientation is, it should be accepted and looked at. Common sense, right? So, in deliberating the purpose of meditation and mindfulness, it is really about finding a sense of control over what one thinks, how one thinks, why one thinks, the state of mind of who is thinking, right? How. You might say that meditation is a how. Mindfulness is a how to think. And you seek to find something nourishing, something more pleasing, more positive. I have noticed, if you've listened to other podcasts of mine, that I have many suggestions for one's, what I would think of as a self-improvement of one's ability to harness oneself. Like what they talk in yoga is a harnessing of one's body and one's mind. It is the same thing. To harness one's thinking. Again, to widen one's perspective. I'm just going to elaborate a little bit more today, and I do it quite often, about having your own sacred saying. A sequence of thoughts, right? Because when you're saying something to yourself, you are thinking to yourself, right? You need to think what the words are to be able to say them. It's like you have a script in your brain. Okay. And you, if you've been listening, know that I have a few sentences that I like to use. Now, the reason I'm exploring this subject with you is it's occurred to me how useful it is, how important it is for me to have this, an anchor for bringing myself into a better state if I'm confused or if I'm unhappy or dismayed over something. And the first of my 3 statements is, I am here now, a bundle of miracles. It is an easy thing also to just say these things and expect them to have some sense of meaning. Perhaps it could very well be that they are just a jumble of words that one utters because I've suggested it, but they have no depth. If this is true, then my suggestion is further to separate this first statement into parts. I. And have the first word, right? And have a sense of understanding of what we're looking for this to represent. Well, this is easy, right? When you separate it. And feel the depth of it by feeling inside simultaneously your pulse or your heart beating or your breath, your chest rising and falling, or feeling the majestic shimmering of your body. It might be any of these three, or all of these three, as you say each word. If you don't feel something inside of yourself, then you may not be feeling the depth that you need to for your sacred phrase to work. Just a suggestion. I am here now. You see, if you've been following what I've just said, it's different. There's a depth. There's a sense of resonance with the articulation of the words. A bundle of miracles. All of a sudden, the lights go on. The sun rises. The stars become brighter. In this way, all of a sudden you are transformed into something more. One's senses are polished and brightened. This is what we're talking about, doing to take us from a narrow point of focus into something greater, something more. It is an example. I'm not going to go through all three of the statements because time is forever ticking away. But you go to a different podcast that I've done and you will find all three. For now, I want to wish you the merriest and the most successful day. As the yogis like to say, namaste, which means from my heart to yours. A blessing. Good day.